have some more.
Of course you can.
Yeah.
It's a good sake, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
That's why it's my favourite.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 38 of Sugidama Podcast, the podcast about Japanese sake, the drink some people make for their entire lives. And today we are going to talk about Noguchi Sake Institute, the brewery headed by Noguchi Naohiko, the god of sake brewing, as he is widely known. Noguchi-san is in his 90s and he's still making beautiful sake. But before we talk about Noguchi-san and his sake, let me tell you about our sponsor, London Sake, and who has one of the widest selections of premium and craft sake available online today. You can choose from over 100 sake from 25 breweries, and they will deliver across the UK and many European markets. And if you don't know what sake to choose, you can use simple online tasting notes together with very sensible and affordable food pairings to help you decide. What's more, you can get a 10% discount by just using the code SUGIDAMA, all caps, during checkout. London Sake, making sake simple. My name is Alex and I live in London. I am a certified sake specialist, sake judge, sake educator, and sake advocate. Besides this podcast, I have Sugidama blog, where I write about all things sake and publish tasting notes, overviews, and information about sake events happening in London. Today is the first episode of a mini-series called A Brewery Focus, where I am talking to sake importers about one brewery from their portfolio. My guest in this episode is Oliver Hilton Johnson from Tengu Sake, who already appeared in episode 9 back in 2020, which is still one of the most downloaded episodes of the Sugidama podcast. Noguchi Sake Institute is a recent addition to his portfolio, so we sat together, tasted 3 sake from the range, and discussed the sake and some other things. Overall, I've got a 2-hour conversation, which I had to cut into 1 hour, leaving out a lot of interesting stuff. So I'm thinking to release either a full version at some point, which is almost an hour and a half, or the leftovers as a bonus episode. So without further delay, let's listen to our conversation with Oliver about Noguchi Sake Institute.
Please welcome our guest.
Hi everyone, I'm here today with Oliver Hilton Johnson, the owner, director, and the main person in Tengu Sake, which is pretty cool sake importer. And we are here to talk about one of the breweries his company represents and try sake and see how it goes.
Excellent.
Hey Oliver, how are you doing?
Very well. Good to see you, Alex. I feel like I haven't really seen you for a while.
Yeah.
Over these past few years during COVID, we've seen each other for like IWC judging and the very infrequent industry tasting, but I haven't really seen you apart from that. So it's good to see you in the flesh.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I very nice to see you. It's a nice sunny day for a change.
So I'm excited for today for you to try Noguchi Sake. It's a new brewery. I mean, it's a new brewery in general. It's only been going since 2017, but it's also a new brewery for me to be importing. I just started this year. So yeah, it's brand new in the UK, pretty much. Only sort of been here for about 6 months.
Okay.
And as I say, the brewery was founded in 2017, so it's a new brewery from that point of view as well. So I'm excited for you to try the product. Have you tried them before?
I don't remember. Probably not. There was an event, right?
Yeah, I did one with the British Sake Association, like a sit-down dinner with that, and that went really well. That was exciting. It's nice to be able to do an event where it's spread out over an evening, and you have a whole meal, and it's got plenty of time for people to get to grips with the sake and enjoy the food and see how it goes together, rather than a kind of lecture about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's much
And
more fun.
it's more like natural environment, because I mean, in real life, you sit somewhere, have nice food, and drink sake.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a perfect occasion to try.
Yeah,
music.
we had a good 40 people, if not more, come to that, which is really nice. It wasn't a massive venue, so it was absolutely chock-a-block, full to the brim, which is fantastic. But it's nice to be able to do it in a much more kind of informal, intimate setting like we're doing today. And so I think we're going to be trying 3 sakes today. That's what I've got lined up for you. And I put some like little nibbles out as well. This is what I tend to like to do when I try sakes, especially for the first time. I like messing around with the temperature of them, but also I like to put out some bits and bobs to try them with. So we've got some kind of like tandoori prawns here. Okay. It's kind of fishy, but also spicy. And then some kind of Iberico ham, cured ham things. Some various French cheeses, some goats, some sheep. I think this is probably something like manchego or something like that.
Looks like that.
Some sun-dried tomatoes, some stuffed peppers, some whatever on earth those are.
It's like nuts.
Yeah, so I think their seeds might be like not sunflower seeds, but
No.
I don't know, but something like that.
Yeah.
Some sort of pulse. And some anchovies, just a variety of bits and bobs to try with the sakes if we feel like it, and see what works well. That's kind of how I like to enjoy sake, you know, just discovering bits and bobs.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds good. Probably we start with the brewery itself, because one thing I thought straight away about when I saw this brewery. Well, it's called Noguchi Sake Institute.
Yeah, Noguchi Naohiko Sake Institute.
Yeah, it's more like I think the idea is to make sake and educate brewers how to do that. So
you're right in so much as the remit of the brewery is very much about capturing Noguchi Toji's knowledge, skills, expertise, passion, and lifetime of, because the guy is 90 years old.
Oh yeah.
You know, he's been born in 1932 and he's been brewing sake since he was 16, 17 years old. So he's been doing it for an extremely long time.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
It really is. And I've been trying to reflect on that and just trying to get my head around how long that is. It's such a, you know, there are Toji that one admires that have been doing it for 20 or 30 years time, and he's been doing it for at least twice that length of time. You know, 70 years plus. It's kind of incredible when you think about that. And when he started brewing sake in the mid-50s, you know, that was just after the end of the Second World War. Or early 50s really, but just after the end of the Second World War, and to think about the limitations that was put on the sake industry at that time, and how difficult it was to acquire decent rice and to make sake that was economically viable and yada yada yada. It's kind of insane to think he started then and then has gone through the various waves and trends and evolutions that have come through the sake industry since then. I mean, it really is amazing to think about.
I think so. I mean, I agree, absolutely agree with that. And the fact that he's 90 and he's still got this gist to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he really is in the brewery every day. I mean, that's the question I get asked frequently. Is he really there? Yeah, he really is there. He really is there. And to go back to your original question, you know, the reason it's an institute is because, you know, obviously they recognise he didn't start the place. That's the first thing to acknowledge. It wasn't him saying, I want to do it myself. Someone else, a kind of mega fan of his and someone who had the wherewithal and the cash to be able to set it up, built this place, as I say, in 2017, really to capture what he has acquired over the years and be able to pass that on. And so, just as you were suggesting, it's as much a brewery as it is a kind of institution to be able to train the next generation of brewers, Toji, in his style, but also just to pass on his years and years of knowledge. I mean, many people, including some people I really admire and are regarded as the kind of experts in the industry, regard him as the very best Toji that maybe not has ever lived, but it is there right now.
Yeah. Because I know that he's a legend, basically.
He is a legend, yeah. He is a legend. He's the only Toji to, he's got three kind of, what's the right word? Not qualifications, but titles that have been bestowed to him. Mm-hmm. The first of which is he's been recognized by the Japanese government as a modern master craftsman. Yeah, so that's the first thing. The second thing is he's got a Medal of Honor with a yellow ribbon from the Emperor. And I'm going to quote exactly what it means, is it's through their diligence and perseverance, whilst engaged in their professional activities, have become public role models.
Wow. And
then the final thing that the final accolade that he has is that he's one of the 4 heavenly guardians of the Noto Toji Guild.
Wow.
So the Noto Toji, which is the Toji Guild from Ishikawa Prefecture, where Noguchi hails from and where the brewery is, and all the breweries that he's worked for before, the kind of Noto Toji and Noguchi are kind of, they're not synonymous obviously, but they're very much intertwined. And a lot of the kind of hallmarks of the Noto Toji Guild, Yamahai technique, maturation, and particularly the Yamahai technique using this kind of almost paint mixer kind of electric drill type thing to stir the shubo. Mm-hmm. That was Noguchi Toji introducing that and experimenting with that, and it's now a kind of blueprint of Yamahai technique that the Noto Toji use. And so he really is, as you say, an absolute legend. And when you think of Yamahai, you've got to think of Noguchi. Of course, people are doing loads of different stuff, and they should do, riffs off it, all sorts of exciting things. Yeah. And indeed, the whole paint mixing thingy-mabob that Noguchi does is a riff off the Akita Kimoto style, which they do with that particular implement. Mm-hmm. And so everyone's riffing off everyone. But what I'm trying to say is, Noguchi was such an instrumental part of the Noto Toji Guild and of the Yamahai kind of revival, and it being a kind of championed by him, that he's really, as you say, a legend in the sake world. Yeah.
It's really, really fascinating, to be honest. Like that the person of this sort of level and knowledge still makes sake. So you've been to the brewery, I suppose.
I haven't been to the brewery, no, because of COVID.
Oh yeah,
Japan has just opened up again. So I hope to go to the brewery very, very soon. But literally, it's been in the past week now that they've dropped the various requirements.
I think so.
And so I'm going to jump on a plane as soon as possible and go out there, and that is the first place on my list to visit. I mean, I've spoken to the man via Zoom and all that sort of stuff, but I've never had the opportunity to visit the brewery yet.
Because all your other breweries, you visited them.
Of course, many times.
So
it's kind of a weird one, and I was in two minds about whether I should start importing them without having visited them, because it kind of felt a bit disingenuous. But at the same time, I recognise it's extraordinary times. It's not my fault. Out there. And I'd much rather launch the brand here, get feedback, get excitement around it, and then I can go and visit and capitalise on that kind of momentum that's been generated in the UK.
And it's amazing that obviously his sake, it's slightly different. I mean, like we look like a Philip Harper sake. It's different from the crowd. Especially the sake that he exported. And his sake again, it's a standout from the other because it's like an aged Nama or something like that.
Actually, in my mind, Philip's stuff and Noguchi Toji stuff are quite similar.
Yeah.
Well, not. I mean, they have a similar kind of ethos and the kind of a lot of their they like big, bold, structured, aged nama. You know, Philip will often say, "Don't worry about putting nama in the fridge.
exactly.
Just leave it out, age it, stick it, whatever." And Noguchi isn't quite as far on that end of the spectrum, but he's very much ages Namazake, all the things that we're taught about Namazake when you study in a book. You know, Namazake is delicate and precious and must be kept refrigerated the entire time. Noguchi Toji's like, nah, don't worry about that. Lay it down, age it, let it mature, let it evolve. But that's not a new thing he's been doing. He's been doing that since day one.
Yeah.
You know, his first Toji gig ran about 28, 29 years old, if memory serves me. He started at Kikuhime, which is in Ishikawa. And when he first started at Kikuhime, it was a very small brewery, and the majority of their customers were lumberjacks and manual workers that did hard graft. And so when he released his first sake as Toji, with techniques that he'd learned from studying with a sake master in Mie Prefecture, his first release was much lighter. Bear in mind this is in the 60s, 68, 69 or something. So it's still not going to be these delicate Daiginjo styles that we know and love nowadays. It's still going to be relatively hearty, but it was, for the time, quite light and light-bodied. It did not go down well. These lumberjacks are like, no, I do not like this. And so that's what's got him to stroke his chin and think about, how can I make this sake more structured, more impactful, more acidic, that these people that work hard during the day and want at the end of the day something, full and rich and with a bit of oomph to it. And that's how he discovered Yamahai. And he went to study with a guy in Kyoto, and he learnt Yamahai techniques, and he brought that back to Kikuhime. And Kikuhime now is absolutely synonymous with Yamahai. So year 2, he did Yamahai, and it was a massive hit. And that's how he got into Yamahai. It wasn't later until he learnt of the Akita technique of using the kind of paint mixing thing, and he brought that in. During his time at Kikuhime, he produced some really famous sakes that are Yamahai and matured, long age matured, 5, 10, 15, 20 years matured Namazake. And that, Kikuhime is really famous for that now, and that's all Noguchi Toji's efforts.
Because I guess they still got the sake that he made.
But they've also carried on that style, exactly. That's what they're still doing now. So when you go to, not that I've been, but I've seen many a photo. When you go to the brewery, they have kind of like a viewing platform, and where the kurobuto work, up on the wall, they have a big picture of Noguchi Toji kind of looking at them. Slightly intimidating.
Like 1984.
And then they have these kind of this kind of mantra on the wall, different sayings that he's come up with, and they're awesome. Bearing in mind the dude's 90, right? Yeah. So the first one, he says, "With such a thing as sake brewing, if we think I've got it, then it lacks understanding. So we cannot absolutely know something if we begin with this false thinking." Right? So the idea that if you're 90 years old or however old, and you're like, I get it, I know what I'm doing. No, the rice or the brewing or the temperature or the fire is just going to just mess with you. Right?
Exactly.
You've got to be, and I think that's followed up by the next expression, which is, what is important for sake brewing is a passion for things. Because microorganisms do not say anything. Right? So we've got to be completely honest. I cannot definitely succeed if I deceive myself. Even if I work my fingers to the bone, I've got to make adjustments. I adapt to aspergillus. I adapt myself to yeasts. I cannot make a good sake without feeling like that. Sake will never engage me if I force on it my own circumstances.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Which is pretty cool, right? You've
Yeah.
got to, and for a guy who's lived through the deprivation of post-war
Yeah.
to the abundance of nowadays with all different rice varieties and yeast varieties and all that sort of stuff, to see that evolution, to understand that you've got to let the ingredients talk to you and the fermentation talk to you, and to be reactive rather than active. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like television versus theatre.
Yeah.
Theatre is a conversation.
Yeah.
Where you're talking between the audience and the actor or the cast.
Any particular day. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas television is just you watching things coming into your eyes. It's not the latter. It is theatre. It is this dialogue, this duality, this negotiation.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I find really interesting.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's quite cool. And I remember I was doing interview with Akemi about the koji, because she's a koji specialist, and she was talking about koji
like a child or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
and it's so cool.
It's very cool. Yeah. Akemi's amazing, and her koji, as you suggest, her koji knowledge is really great. And with my conversations with her, she very much talks about it. So it's kind of, and brewers, it's like, often in the wine industry, people talk about minimum intervention. You kind of just leave it and off it cracks, and it doesn't work like that with sake. No. Sake, when you talk to brewers, they talk about fermentations, particularly shubo, being like a baby.
Yeah.
And if you just leave it on its own, it'll just die. Just fall over and die. You've got to just keep just tickling it and looking after it and nurturing it and just rewarding it and all that sort of stuff. You can't just leave it. I mean, I'm sure you could do, but it would end up with some pretty sketchy sake. You've got to listen and respond to what it's telling you, and work with it and guide it, and that's very much like a child, very much like a baby,
I think so. I think this sort of acceptance that koji and yeast, they're not your servant, but you have to negotiate with them. It's pretty. I mean,
I like that. That's a really nice way of putting it.
Yeah. So you basically not like a omnipotent man who I command the yeast to do that, and no, you talk to them
and if you think about the sake market, you think about the sakes that are out there, you can spot the sakes that are like that, right? Where someone has imposed their will,
exactly,
and they're trying to create something that is, homogeneous and predictable and blah blah blah. Whereas at the other end of the scale is the other end of the scale.
Yeah.
But in the middle ground's absolutely fine. But those that try to endlessly impose, homogeny on the product just doesn't.
Yeah.
It just results in slightly dull experience.
Yeah, it's. I think. I mean, I sort of appreciate that there are a lot of breweries, and obviously they're trying to. You have to please your consumers, and you have to deal with the sake production, and they sometimes focus too much on consumers rather than, and it makes sense because obviously it's your livelihood. You have to sell sake to get, but on the other hand, I think when you as Noguchi try to understand koji yeast, how it works, and go with the flow, you sometimes can come up with something amazing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's amazing. It's what amazing about sake. It's the way people interact, because you don't interact only with yeast. You interact with koji,
Yes.
yeast, and in a very complex way.
Yes.
And the result of your interaction is something beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's quite right.
Okay, before we listen to our tasting and discussion of 3 sake from the Noguchi range, let me remind you about London Sake, our sponsor, and their huge selection of curated sake sets, which provide a great opportunity to explore various styles and types of sake. Have a look, but don't forget about the magic word Sugedama, all caps, to get your 10% discount. Okay, you can treat this part as a sake of the episode section, but with 3 sake instead of 1. So probably we start with something and then we take it from there.
Tasting?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. So I will grab the Junmai.
It's quite a nice shape of the bottle as well.
Yeah, a number of... So Tatsunoko are changing all their bottles to this as well. This just speaks volumes about, I think, how the sake industry is looking more internationally. And I think that's great news.
Yeah.
And the bottle shape, you're right, is good.
Because it's a quite long neck, which makes it quite elegant.
It does make it elegant. Yeah. So this is the Junmai. It's got a lovely, circular kind of round, like the no in hiragana of Noguchi. That's the logo, the Noguchi Naohiko Sake Institute logo. So Junmai, it's as I say, the 2020 vintage. Try it in these glasses, these kind of Sakazuki that we're drinking them out of. We try it in that, and you can also try it in a white wine glass, perhaps, or let's put it in a white wine glass as well, and see if it makes any difference. It's straight out of the fridge. You can see how it pours. It's quite viscous, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
And as you say, elegant. Right?
Yeah, elegant and luxury.
So give that a compare if you want.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not shy.
I think if you really want a window into their house style, this is a great window. Very much what Noguchi Toji is all about.
Yeah.
Big, bold, expansive, juicy, fat. Yeah. Mouth-watering.
Yeah, exactly.
Begs food.
Yeah.
Really does. Great food sake.
Yeah, it's amazing food.
High acidity.
Yeah, it's everything. It's got everything that people sometimes complain about sake. Say, oh yeah, sake, it's not very acidic. I like sort of like more acidity, or it's sometimes people say, oh yeah, all sake, they're pretty much the same sort of taste and things like that. But here you can straight away feel and taste the difference between. You can say, oh yeah, it's completely different from what you've got. It's in the style. There are number sake of this style, but obviously it got everything probably on the front row.
It's very well integrated, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
really round. Do you feel there's any naminess to it?
Not in the taste. Slightly in the
nose.
On the nose.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can.
Especially in the glass.
Yeah, right, exactly. You can still smell that slightly lactic, cheesy vibe. Yeah. And, it is 2-year-old Namazake.
Yeah.
When you taste the other ones, I think all that naminess is gone. It's just integrated. So I think this Junmai really does retain some of the naminess. It's not like fresh, juicy nama, because it's had that maturation. One of the key points of Noguchi's sake is it's Muroka Nama Genshu, so unfiltered, unpasteurized, undiluted, aged. This is 2020 vintage, and it's also high ABV in order to allow it to be aged for that period of time, it is high ABV. This one is 19%.
19, wow.
19, which is punchy.
It's pretty punchy but on the other hand, you don't, when you try it, it doesn't come through as 19%.
Absolutely right.
You can feel that, it's a Genshu, definitely. But it's not like you think, 90. You don't taste this alcohol.
It's not hot, is it? No.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think a lot of these high ABV sakes benefit from a bit of time open. So I opened this last night and I could perceive the alcohol a little bit more. But now, today, drinking it with you, I can't perceive that at all.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good idea with these high ABV sakes to stick them into, if you were to open it fresh, to put them into some sort of a vessel, either I don't know, not a tokuri that's closed, but something that's open and wide. Like a katakuchi,
like a
or
graph
something like
or
that.
something like that.
Yeah, or a wine carafe.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
Just something to allow the volatiles to come off and a bit of the alcohol to evaporate, and it really mellows out. A bit of oxygen never hurts either.
Yeah. Well, it's been aged for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, in terms of food, what would you suggest?
So I think, I'm just going to remind myself what I've actually said. So I've said on I put tasting notes.
Yeah, you do.
So food ideas, I put oily fish, fatty meats, pizza. I had pizza last night. I can attest that it works very well. And sort of complex flavors, something with layered umami, something with a bit of oomph to it.
Yeah.
So in terms of what sits in front of us, I'm definitely going to try it with these anchovies. Yeah, works really well with those anchovies. Washes away the saltiness.
Yeah.
Just leaves you with that umami. Obviously, we're eating a raw anchovy, so it's ridiculously salty. But with the sake, it just mellows it out completely. You just get that kind of umami throb.
Yeah.
If that's the right word. Yeah, very nice. That's great. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I put out here is very
I think
intensive.
Everything is basically, most of the stuff here, if not all, will go very well with.
Yeah, I mean, I have kind of skewed what I've chosen towards the sakes, of course.
Yeah. Let me try it with prawn and see how it works.
Yeah, I'll do the same. Spicy food's always a little bit difficult with some sakes. Namazake, I find, works exceptionally well with spicy food.
I think anchovies works better, but it's still quite nice.
I think it overwhelms the prawn, but it works well with the sauce.
Yeah,
it works
exactly.
well with the spices, the kind of tandoori spices. And I have had this sake with curry.
Yeah.
And it works really well with curry.
Yeah.
It works really, really well with curry. If it's a super spicy curry, then the high ABV kind of encourages that a little bit. But if it's medium to low intensity on the spice, it can be very rich and very spicy in terms of the spices. But medium hot to low, it works extremely well. Absolutely delicious.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So this is made with Gohyakumangoku rice, grown immediately around the brewery. It's just one of the. It's one of the. We always talk about how the emphasis with sake is not necessarily on the rice per se, and it's much more on the techniques. And I think this really speaks volumes to that. Gohyakumangoku is not a rice that is renowned for big, full-bodied sakes. It's a early harvest rice. It's got a large shimpaku, but it's also got a relatively high protein content. But it is not renowned. It is much more renowned for these light, crisp styles of sake, kind of Niigata style, which is obviously where it hails from. And so I think this really is a good example of how the brewing philosophy and the brewing techniques override the kind of choice of sake rice. But Niigata is a neighbouring prefecture to Ishikawa, so it's natural that they should go for a rice that is within the kind of local area rather than one that's miles away. They do make a couple of products with Yamada Nishiki, and of course Noguchi Toji, having been in the game for so long, he's got some fabulous contracts with farmers that produce, Toku A, Yamada Nishiki, the best of the best of the best. And only if you've been in the game for ages can you get hold of that stuff. And so he does make a sake with that, which is an extraordinary sake. It's a Junmai Daiginjo, Muroka Namagenshu, 2017 vintage. And it was the choice sake from all the tanks he made, blended and aged, personally selected by Noguchi Toji. It comes in a beautiful bottle. It's called Limited Edition Number 1. It does an Omachi version as well, which is pretty much, I think it is sold out now. But yeah, absolutely fabulous stuff.
Yeah, I think that obviously this sake it's a great start if you go into this brewery and you want to try. I think this works very well because I think it's very all-rounded. It's got the characteristics, as you said, of the style because it's juicy, punchy, but still elegant and still very well integrated, if you like. And it works with quite a lot of foods. I mean, you can even have it with lighter food and it should work because it's not that sweet, deep sake. It's very deep, but it's deep on the slightly different level.
I completely agree, yeah. I mean, you've got on the nose, you've got quite bright, fruity aromas, haven't you? You've got kind of juicy, like mango and kind of kumquat and kind of stewed apple and pear and those kind of things. Very developed, but also kind of fudgy notes and the lactic cheesiness, all of that coming through. And then on the palate, you get all of that as well. So it is fresh and juicy and fruity, but it also has that weight and that depth and that acidity that is, not typical, as you were saying, in sake. Often, and I completely agree. People, my way into sake, and I think from hearing you speak, your way into sake was through a very kind of light, delicate Junmai Daiginjo style, where you get seduced by the elegant fruitiness and so on and so forth. And that's a lot of people's way into. There's a kind of epiphany moment of being oh wow, this is amazing. And then you evolve from that, right? Exactly. Or maybe you don't. It doesn't matter. But the point is that this has that kind of fruitiness, that opulence, but also a kind of depth and integrity to it that is more than just a very light, quaffable drink. It's actually a real kind of experience in a glass,
And I think it's a very good example of Junmai, which is fruity and nice, but still quite umami laden. Because what you very often see with modern Junmai, they try to, in a way, imitate Daiginjo style. And you think, what's the point? But here, you can see that, it's light enough for Junmai, but still got all these benefits of lower polishing ratio and
the polishing on this is 60%.
It's like a ginja polishing ratio, but obviously Junmai and
absolutely,
and it's I think it's a very good example of like a modern Junmai.
I agree. I was just thinking that when you were saying it, it's if this was made by a new brewery, you'd be like, it's very, very modern. Pushing
exactly.
The boundaries of Junmai. This man's been making it for 70 years.
It's amazing thing.
It is amazing. Yeah,
cool.
You see the color on it as well. It's not a dark color, but it's got a very obvious kind of lemon green to it.
You can see that it's a Morocco, and I think it's amazing sake. It's definitely sake that you would probably can recommend somebody.
I think so. Do you think someone has never tried sake before?
I think so. I think so, because it obviously depends on the person. If the person is into certain type of wine, they might not like it straight away. It's probably in this case you want to do like Junmai Daiginji or something first. But for most of the people, I would think they will appreciate it, because they will appreciate the fruitiness, lightness, and very sort of complex base underneath. And it's probably it's in a way it's like ideal sake.
Interesting.
Because you've got from all these styles, you've got something, and they integrate it in a very, very natural way.
Well, it's reassuring to hear you say that. In my mind, I was always worried that this would be a bit more specialist, a bit more geeky, those that have come into sake and have gone through that journey a little bit. I think if it was 6 years ago, I wouldn't have brought this into the UK, because I would have feared that the market wasn't mature enough for it at that point. But now, there's more and more people that know about sake, and more non-Japanese places that are interested in sake, and that's where I kind of see this sitting.
Yeah.
And I think the market can tolerate it.
Yeah. It's sweet enough, but not too sweet. It's light enough, but not too light. It's I think it occupies a very nice niche, which will go very well with restaurants. It's probably not sake you would offer somebody to drink on its own, because you just waste it, because it's like very amazing food sake. But in a restaurant, and you can do any kind of hearty French or Italian or Spanish food, and it will work very well.
Yeah, good points.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's also good warm, that sake.
Yeah. Have you tried to warm it up?
Yeah, so it is good warm. So I tried it 30 to 40 degrees. It's really great in that kind of range.
Yeah.
Really nice. So the 30s I think best. 40s it gets a little bit too much. 30s is where you kind of maximize umami and sweetness.
Yeah.
And so, that's already got buckets of it, and it really opens up at that kind of temperature range.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next sake that we're going to try is also Gohyakumangoku, but it's Yamahai this time. So the difference between this sake and the last sake is Yamahai. Because this is Muroka Namagenshu, also Gohyakumangoku, but not Gohyakumangoku grown locally. It's Niigata Gohyakumangoku. And it is 65% polished rather than 60% polished.
Wow.
So not quite as polished.
Yeah, I see what you mean by this.
Yeah, you see, it's much more sexy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Much more exciting. You can imagine if this is opened by a table. You take off the capsule.
Capsule. Okay.
And then you have this really kind of involved securing of the cap, and then you've got to pop the cap, which always comes with a little kind of zhuzh.
Yeah.
And then you've got the sake, and as you say, the bottle's really elegant.
Yeah.
The label design's really elegant. Praise the Lord, they've put English on the label.
Yeah.
They've really, they've thought about it.
Yeah.
And that speaks volumes. You think about it, the man is in his 90s.
Yeah.
And he's not only the Toji, he's also in charge of all the artistic output, all the design work, everything. And so for him, obviously he's got advisors and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But for him to come up with label designs like this that have a lot of English on them just goes to show how switched on he is. He's not this old fuddy-duddy guy who is stuck in his ways and has never changed. He's evolving and innovating and kind of keeping up with the times. Yeah. I think it's very cool.
Yeah, I think so. And you can see that this bottle, it projects this luxury in a way. And also, what I like about these bottles, it looks like a bit like a wine bottle, but it's still got this Japanese style, and it's very good combination of like tradition and the modern take on the wine bottle or alcohol bottle. Yeah,
agreed. This is, I mean, try this sake. Tell me things. Another 19% ABV, so big, punchy. It is Junmai, 2018 vintage. So it's got an extra 2 years on the previous one. I won't tell you any more until you've tried it. But straight away you can see the colour is even more pronounced.
It's very nice hue of colour, and
I think, if I'm honest, this is my favourite of the bunch.
Okay. Yeah, you can smell Nama straight away. The cheesiness and
it's straight out of the fridge, so it's a little bit cold, but I think you still get the character of the sake.
Yeah, it tastes like Nama.
But much deeper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Much. It doesn't have the boisterousness of the previous one. It doesn't have the liveliness, the friskiness. It's a much more grown-up sake, much more mature, but it's much deeper in flavour.
Yeah.
Much more soy, umami, kind of Marmite biscuit, demerara sugar or molasses, mushroom, dried fruits, chocolate, leather, those kind of things, rather than the kind of, you don't have any of the fruit that you had on the first one, right? Don't have any of that kind of tropical fruity vibe. It's much deeper. It's a real kind of umami bomb.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, not typical with Gohyakumangoku.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I wonder why Noguchi decided on Gohyakumangoku, because either it's because it's a local rice and he wanted to use local ingredients, or probably because his style is pretty dense, if you like. Probably he wanted to offset it with the rice.
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, one of the things that Gohyakumangoku is known for is kind of precise flavour. So I wonder if he's not using it for kind of because it's not busy, messy umami. It's quite layered. Do you know what I mean? It's quite precise. So I wonder if he isn't using it for that. But yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. It's one of the questions I will ask him when I go visit the brewery. But it's just such a great sake. It's such a great food sake, and it's absolutely delicious warm.
Yeah, it's very delicious.
So this one compared with the next one. So the next one is Yamahai, but Miyama Nishiki. And they're kind of almost opposites in so much as this Gohyakumangoku Yamahai is high umami, relatively low acidity. And the next one, the Miyama Nishiki, is high acidity, relatively low umami. And so I think that is an interesting comparison between the two. It is just, a very foodie, like the previous one, but in a different way, I can imagine this much more with mushroom risotto or, ragu.
Maybe bourguignon, probably. Very good.
Absolutely. Those kind of, stews and tagine and, deep flavours.
It will go very well with Eastern European food, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's
interesting. Yeah, I'm going to try it with some. This is kind of Iberico ham I'm going to try it with. And I bet it's blinding with this. The acidity really works with the, there's a big layer of fat around the outside of that. It really works with that and just helps spread the flavour all over your mouth.
And it opens up when it's getting slightly warmer.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think it's from the fridge. It's nice, but you lose a lot of interesting stuff.
Totally. I mean, on the bottle here, I do say 5 to 15 degrees, but I 100% agree with you. All these sakes, and I think probably sake in general, is best not straight out of the fridge.
Yeah. I usually put it in tokkuri. Obviously, when you put it first from the fridge, it's cold. But when you go through like half of it, it's already sort of normal temperature. have some more?
Of course you can.
Yeah.
It's a good sake, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
That's why it's my favourite.
yeah.
I mean, I love all the others, but this one, it just reaches places that other sakes can't reach.
Yeah, but I think this one is more like a special sake, because it's I guess if you give it to somebody who never tried sake, it's something that you don't know if the person will like it or not.
But but of many of the sakes that I've tried, this is the most similar to a kind of a full-bodied red. You know, like an old world full-bodied red. Obviously, it doesn't have any of the kind of, but I mean, like an old world full-bodied red. It's got a lot of maturity on it, so it's lost that juiciness, that fruitiness, and it's just left with acidity, weight, body, a bit of fruit, obviously. And this is kind of how I see this.
I absolutely agree, but I think if you never tried sake, you will obviously think, oh, it doesn't have any acidity, because obviously acidity will, and it may throw you into like you think, oh yeah, well, what is it?
Well, this is one of the things when I first started, because I do not on the bottles but on my website, I do a little flavour graph of acidity, high acidity, low acidity. And one of the things that I had to wrestle with at the beginning is, how do I reference this? How do I do I reference this in relation to wine, right? Because most people are going to be coming to it from a wine point of view. And if I say this is high acidity and they drink it, they're like, it's not high acidity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But for sake, it is.
Yeah.
So how do you? It's difficult to that.
It's
is
very
this
difficult.
dry? Is this sweet? From a sake point of view, this is dry. From a wine point of view, forget about it. This isn't dry.
Yeah.
This is sweet or off dry. You know.
But on the other hand, if you think about beer, you can't compare beer with wine. If you talk about it's a lot of acidity in beer, it's still not as acidic as a lot of wines.
Yeah, the issue is that beer and wine are demonstrably different.
Yeah, exactly.
Products.
Yeah.
Whereas sake and wine, as we well know, and most of your listeners will know, are demonstrably different beverages. But when we're trying to pitch it to the kind of audience that enjoys wine, we need to acknowledge that. And you drink it. I spend my life telling people the occasions you drink wine are the occasions you drink sake.
Yeah, exactly.
Beer is a different proposition.
Yeah.
It's a sunny, beautiful day outside and picnic blazing hot. You drink beer. You can drink some sake, but beer would be my choice because it's a refreshing drink and it's a long drink and yada yada. Sake, on the other hand, is a food beverage. I wouldn't. I'm sure there are beer drinkers that are going to disagree with me. And if you do, please, send your comments to Alex. But beer is not a food drink in my mind, whereas sake is quintessentially a food drink, just like wine is. I mean, of course, there are wines that you drink without, but quintessentially a food drink.
But I think drinking without eating, it's a pretty novel concept.
It's a pretty British concept, dude.
It's
Pretty British concept.
Yeah.
We will drink any excuse. Don't need food.
I agree. I mean, the idea of all alcohol was that it was drunk with food, or it was a medicine.
Yes.
Like medieval Europe, all the spirits were like a medicine stuff rather than sake is definitely a food drink. I mean, a lot of sake it's great with food, but on its own, it's great only if you went through this journey of sake, sort of discovery, and you understand things, and you say, "Oh yeah, I can."
But that's the same with wine, right? That is the same with wine. People, I don't know, but people start with Pinot Grigio, light, or Provençal Rosé, light, easy drinking wine.
Yeah.
And then many years later, they end up at Gewürztraminer or Riesling or something weird. Sake is the same thing. This is what I was alluding to earlier. You start with something light and very easy drinking and very accessible and fruity and easy. And then you end up with Noguchi, or you end up with Tamagawa, or you end up with something gnarly and weird.
Yeah, it's true.
It doesn't, because you're. I mean, of course, there are people that their tastes don't change or whatever, and that's not.
Yeah.
Everyone to their own. It's not a disparaging remark. I'm not judging. I'm just saying that people go through a journey. I've certainly gone through a journey. My wife's gone through a journey, just being associated with me and liking sake herself. But she doesn't like the sake she liked 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I guarantee you don't like the sake that you like.
Yeah, it was different.
Exactly.
And to my wife as well. So it's I can see that gradually from something like, oh yeah, all sake is the same, to something that, oh yeah, this sake is beautiful. Yeah.
It's also different sakes for different occasions. You know what I mean? If you've got a bunch of friends round and you've got like 10 friends round, you're going to be drinking a whole bunch of sake. You're not going to be bringing the sake out.
Yeah.
It's too involved. People got to concentrate and appreciate it. It's also high ABV.
Yeah.
You don't bring the sake out. You bring out something that's easy, light. Everyone's going to vibe with. It's all gravy. And then if you're doing a barbecue, it's a different thing. If you're doing to sit down dinner, a dinner party where this kind of sake would be perfect.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it adds to the experience and everyone can appreciate it.
And you can discuss it, and you can talk. Oh yeah, things like that. Yeah,
exactly. But it's the same with wine, which is why I think sake, as a comparison with wine, and a lot of people don't like comparing sake with wine. And I like comparing sake with wine because the occasion is the same.
Yeah,
and the volume of sake that one drinks is very similar. Yeah. To wine. It starts to fall apart on a number of different things, and I'm particularly against shoehorning sake into a wine paradigm.
Yeah.
I don't like just using all the descriptors that one uses for wine you can use for sake. But you can't just say, "Oh, sake is another kind of bastard son of wine," and stick it in there, because it doesn't work. You can't. And all the things that make wine relevant does not make sake relevant.
Yeah.
And I know there's it's a very hot topic about terroir in sake, which I'm not going to get into now. But I'm not a massive fan of the idea of terroir of sake, and I just think it's unnecessary. At the end of the day, after everything is laid on the table. It's not a tool in the sake portfolio that needs to be employed. There's a whole bunch of other more exciting stuff you can talk about than the bloody terroir of sake. For Christ's sake, it's much more interesting to talk about the evolution of the brewer's technique, or what they want to do, or what they're trying to achieve, or the style of the sake, or what food it pairs with, or what occasion you pair it with, rather than the terroir. I mean,
I agree.
It's not necessary. It's a thing. It's a thing that people have looked to the wine world for, and even in the wine world it's sketchy, but looked to the wine world for, and have said, "Oh, this is a fundamental keystone point of wine." Especially high-end wine, so we must employ this to sake. And it's like, I mean, okay, if you want to do it, we could get into discussion about the veracity of terroir and sake. But before you even start with that, like, what's the point? There's other stuff to talk about.
Exactly.
It's much richer stories. It's lazy. Talking about terroir. There's other stuff to talk about. It's more exciting. And that's kind of my fundamental point about terroir.
True.
So as I said earlier, this is the Yamahai Moroccan Amagenchu, but this time, instead of Gohyakumangoku, it's Miyama Nishiki.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So again, similar exactly the same label design. They've just changed the colour of the logo in the middle and put Miyama Nishiki at the bottom. This one is, compared to the Gohyakumangoku, which was high amino acidity, high umami, low acidity, this is kind of the opposite. It's got good acidity, good juiciness, but relatively low umami. And the kind of what they're trying to go with, if the previous one was kind of layered umami, this one is kind of crisp, refreshing, silky and soft. That's what they're trying to go with.
Okay.
With this sake. But still bearing in mind the kind of natural position for Noguchi, which is the more full-bodied, richer style sake. Now temperature here I've said chilled.
It's got fruitiness in them.
Yep. So reading my own tasting notes on the back of this bottle, I haven't smelt it yet. But I've said banana, lychee, honeydew melon, silky yet dense mouthfeel with this matured namazake made with Miyama Nishiki rice is rich, earthy, whilst also being crisp and refreshing with a round structure and full mouthfeel. So it is 76% Miyama Nishiki, 31% Yamada Nishiki.
Oh.
Polishing's 55%. 19% ABV.
It's completely different profile, yeah.
And it is very elegant, very soft and silky, and very well integrated. I mean, it really is well integrated.
Yeah.
You would not know it was 19% ABV.
Yeah, exactly. You don't feel it. You don't taste it. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, Miyama Nishiki is generally a cold, growing location. It's the third most popular rice in Japan, right? And again, hard rice. It tends to evolve sakes with this kind of light and aromatic style, but often with kind of layered complexity. And I think they've kind of nailed it on this
exactly.
with that. It really does do that. It's a lovely sake, this.
Yeah.
So of all the sakes I've taken around sommeliers, this one is the one that sommeliers, and they like them all, but this one is the one that sommeliers are like, this is my favourite.
Probably because of the fruitiness.
I think so. The fruitiness, the
and, structure, and very well integrated. And I think it's very versatile because you can have it with food, you can have it without food. I think it will go without food as well.
Interesting. So that's the first one you said that you think would go really well without food, right?
Yeah. Like a bar sake, if you like.
Sure. Yeah.
You come to the bar and say, okay, can I have some sake? And they pour you this one, and you don't really need some. You probably would like some snacks, obviously, but you can have it on its own, and
yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
For me, food-wise, I think kind of creamier cheeses. What have I put here? When I first tasted this, octopus just screamed at me. I really thought octopus would be the number one thing. It's great with octopus. Goat's cheese, pickles, salty dishes, steamed vegetables. That's what I've kind of put here.
I think it's very good with vegetables.
Right.
I think it's the sake out of 3. This will go with vegetables.
100% agree with you. Yeah. Have you tried it with an olive? I want to try it with an olive.
Yeah. Try this. Try these olives. Try this one. It works pretty well.
Yeah. With these olives, it works pretty well.
As I said, it's very versatile. It works with a variety of food, and
I can imagine seafood is like oysters and as I say, octopus. It really does. I haven't tried it with octopus yet, which is a real failure on my part. But I imagine kind of meaty. It's not octopus. Isn't a shellfish, but do you know what I mean? Oysters, octopus, abalone, stuff like that. I bet it would work really well with.
Yeah.
It's good with these tandoori prawns, and for the opposite reason that the Junmai was good. Junmai got involved with the spice. This gets involved with the prawns. Yeah, so kind of sweet fish / shellfish. I think this is a big winner with.
It's very good interaction with the prawn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. which is cool. So maybe gyoza.
Oh yeah,
You know, pork and prawn gyoza.
Yeah,
Then might work really well with that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's out of 3. It's probably the most versatile. So of all 3, what is your favorite? Harder.
I mean, yeah, it is really
it's
difficult.
very hard.
And I do love them all. I mean, I think in reality, the Gohyakumangoku is my favorite because, you know, I'm a big lover of red wine and I'm a big lover of deep flavors that I can just enjoy throughout a meal with Western food. And the Gohyakumangoku, for my money, it provides all of that. The Junmai, bang for buck, man. It's such a good sake.
Oh yeah.
It is such a good sake for the money. It's half the price of the other 2.
Yeah.
And it kills it. It's such a good sake. So that's probably my second favourite. The Miyama, and that's not to say that I don't like the Miyama. I love the Miyama. And, you know, just eating it now with you, trying it with different foods, I'm like, you know, this is amazing. But it's a rare sake in so much as it pairs with foods that you eat more rarely.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I'm not eating octopus regularly.
No.
I'm not having oysters regularly.
Yeah.
But if you are, that's the sake.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think, from my point of view, I look at it slightly differently. I would say the most interesting one is the Gohyakumangoku.
Okay, yep.
It's the most interesting. It's a lot of stuff going on. You can try it with different foods. You've got different experience, and you can warm it up. You can have it chilled. Amazing. Junmai is something that you can recommend everyone, and you say, I want to have a party. What kind of sake I want to have? Some people are.
You definitely have a party if you serve that sake.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Yeah. So you've got like a Junmai. And Miyama Nishiki one, it's I think I liked it the most.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I think it's probably my favorite just because I liked it. It's very all-rounded. You can have it with different occasions. You have it on its own. You can have it with food. And it's amazing. It's very good.
It is really. I mean, it is a really good sake, the Miyama.
I have to thank you for bringing this sake to the UK because it's amazing sake, and it's quite a lot of sake in Japan. But this one is a sort of like a back of the trend in a way. It's not many sake shops in London. You go there, and a lot of like a Junmai Daiginjo. Just normal ones, and it's amazing, very good sake. But this one brings something different. It gives people like way to explore different parts of the sake universe.
Yes.
And think, I like this one, I probably like that one. Yeah. It's amazing brand, and I think it's great that it's here. And we can try it, and we can drink it, and so it's a great brand and great tasting.
It's an absolute pleasure to see. As I say, I haven't seen you enough, so it's lovely to see you, and I'm so glad you could experience these sakes and try them with different little tasting morsels. And I'm glad that you're a fan. That's cool.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks a lot. Yeah,
anytime.
Cool.
Anytime.
Thanks a lot. Cut. That's it for today. I'll be back with more interviews about various sake breweries and sake scenes around the world, as well as a few special episodes. In the meantime, buy a bottle of Noguchi sake from the Tengu Sake website, see the link in the show notes, pair it with your favorite food, and let me know what you think. And of course, buy sake from the London Sake website and compare it to Noguchi sake. Look up tasting notes for various sake on my website, sugidama.co.uk. If you have any questions or suggestions about any sake topic, just drop me a line. My email address is alex@sugidama.co.uk, or you can tag me on Instagram or Twitter at sugidamablog in one word, and now on Mastodon as well, where I am at sugidamablog at universeodon.com. Again, if you like the episode and want more, hit the subscribe button, and you will get every new episode downloaded to your player as soon as it's out. If you would like to give me a bit of support, please leave a review or rate Sugidama Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, or any way you can do it. But more importantly, please share this podcast with your friends on your social media, chat apps, anywhere. A lot of people mention a friend's recommendation as a reason for listening to a particular podcast. So you can be that friend and support Sugidama Podcast. And actually, the more people listen to this podcast, the more actively the podcasting platforms suggest it to other listeners. So it's the best way to bring new people to the world of sake and support Sugidama Podcast. Thanks a lot for listening. Kampai.
Suge, 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 Sugidama blog. Suge, 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 Sugidama blog.